It's buffering, and we're live. There we go. Marty, welcome to the show.
Hey.
You missed Wednesday this week, but hey, show must go on. Let's do it live.
Well, I missed Wednesday, but you had me on 3 times last week. I think you had me on Thursday, and Friday. So I thought maybe people are tired of seeing Marty. So let's just, yeah. No, hopefully, where'd you go? Where'd you go on vacation?
I went to Cultus Lake. It's a beautiful place here in British Columbia, and we picked the perfect week. It was hot all summer, and it dropped down to like 18 degrees, and it was raining the whole time. It was perfect. It was just absolutely perfect. We went to the water park and got rained on, freezing rain. You're at a Canadian water park when you get off every slide, and there's a hot tub at the bottom.
Oh yeah, cool. No, I thought no, I was going to say, you're in a Canadian water park when you use a wetsuit.
There were people wearing wetsuits, and I was
I'm sure there were. I'm sure there were.
I was regretting that I didn't go rent one. Holy cow. It was chilly. So the coldest week of the whole summer, and it's back. Summer's back. Just in time for that. It was Murphy's Law. It was take a week off, go camping, rain, cold.
Yeah.
Happens.
I tweeted about that this week. For us, summer's already over. It feels over. Like I went into my garden yesterday. My potatoes are already wilting. They're done, and it like the garden's already done. It's just it's it's normal. It's Alberta. I mean, we live in central Alberta. Like when summer is, June, July, August, barely September. So yeah,
barely September.
Yeah.
We got a live chat now for this time when we're hanging out. So later in the show, we've got Kirk Lubermoff and we've got Darshan Maharaja coming on, and I'm excited about this because we don't normally have the big panel, for our usual chat. So this is a Friday night live, and I put this one together because the real situation is the immigration story is now hitting mainstream. It's no longer just independent journalists, and it's really influencers and independent journalists that are to thank for this whole push into the public eye, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's a story that we kept hounding on, and the government couldn't ignore it anymore, right? Like our independents like us brought it up over and over. Darshan himself did a fantastic job on one part of the immigration, right? The foreign students part. And the Liberals were in Halifax at the beginning of this week, and definitely one of the biggest policy changes that came out of them when they came out of their little meeting is they definitely reversed themselves on immigration. And here in Alberta, same thing. Danielle Smith a couple of weeks ago was talking about immigration, and then she just heard it overwhelmingly from people like, no. Like it's sure, it might be trying to solve a problem, but it's solving a problem down the road while creating one today. And the problem today is more important than the problem down the road. You can't you can't make housing unaffordable and inflation out of control and school classes bulging to 40 kids in the short term because you're trying to solve a long-term problem. You can't do that.
So I'll save a bit of this, the whole conversation
for
when the other guys come in. We got a few things to talk about right now. Marilyn Haley saying, "Love your shirt, Clyde." Of course you do, because it's the new Wobbly Pop shirt. Yeah, that's right. It's on the store. I'll share this with you guys right now because I'm excited about this. We just dropped this shirt. Go over to ClydeDoSomething.com. And you can get yourself one, as well as some coffee, some delicious, locally roasted coffee. Order yours in. We've got medium dark roast. We've got decaf, if that's your cup of coffee, and get yourself a cup to have it in. But yeah, Wobbly Pops. And because it's all coming from one place, it's not drop shipped. If you do a big order, it'll all be in one package. So you only have to pay the delivery on the one package. So wait until you have a significant order, put it together, and then boom, there you go. Try to save yourself a little bit of coinage there anyway. That's the hopes there. But yeah, love the design, and we worked on this limited time only. So once we're out, they're done. And then we'll be working on something else entirely. We got Linda Hunter gifting 1 membership to the channel. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Is that's not
Mr.
that's got is that Linda? Did you and I work together back in 10 years ago? I mean, Linda Hunter's not a super popular name, but I worked with a lady named Linda Hunter. Linda, if you're in IT and you work with me, wave again.
There you go. Mr. Roscoe Pico, member for 22 months. It snowed in the Coquihalla last week. Yeah, I was going to get to that. Because, yeah, I mean, when I saw that, my heart sunk.
Every ski resort in Alberta, major one, Lake Louise, Kananaskis, they all had snow this week. All did.
Yeah, but the Coquihalla, we're talking about the road, not the resort.
Yeah, but the road's probably higher than some of our resorts, right? Like, how high is the Coquihalla? It's pretty high.
It's up there. It's up there. But I mean, every ski resort will be like, yeah, early snow right on the very peak, right? And I'm just discouraged by it. I love summer so much, but in Canada, if you blink, you miss it. Now, I wanted to share this one because I thought this was hilarious. I put this out on Twitter and I made everyone guess because I'm an auto mechanic and I see a lot of different things. And I wanted to make people guess on this one. Before we get to that, Trish Prue saying for 279, yeah, it's Marty. Looking forward to the show. Awesome. Looking forward to it as well.
Hi,
Thank you, Trish.
Yeah.
So I want to share this one. This is what I shared on Twitter. This is a tool, an automotive tool. I wrote, it's an automotive specialty tool. Can you guess what it does? And I want the chat in real time to make some guesses on this one while we get to this. So this is the tool here. And I mean, yeah, I mean, you could describe what it looks like all day long. But we got a lot of good comments on this one. Whatever it is, this tool's better. And actually, Marty, in this case, it isn't. It isn't. Not in this application. So throw that one out there. Amazing Zoltan, Alex saying it's a mask worn for superstitious dancing ceremonies before dissecting the engine of a Mercedes-Benz. To which I shared the Tengu mask. Lots of really good answers in there. Lots of some of them right. Some guys got it absolutely right, even down to the name, even. And that's where that's at. Let's see if anybody has any guesses in the chat here. Just everybody's talking about winter, country specific caps. No. Anyway, I'll explain it. So this is actually for removing hubs.
I got it. I knew it.
on vehicles. In particular, though, the bearings. If you keep the hub bolted to the bearing, and you use this, what you do is you bolt it to a hub, and then you whack it with a sledgehammer, like as hard as you possibly
and some
can.
hubs are notorious for being tough to take off, right? Like on Ram pickup trucks, they're notoriously tough. Mazda cars, a few vehicles are known for being tough to work on. The reason I knew
this for a specific brand, and
did you?
Rear wheel bearings on Subarus.
Oh, okay.
Like cross tracks and things like that.
Yeah. In fact, weirdly or coincidentally, I just did the bearings on my all-terrain vehicle getting ready for hunting. And yeah, when I remove the hubs, sometimes the bearings, I got these split ring bearings and the inner race stays attached to the hub. So the hub comes off, but the damn bearing stays attached. And so then I have to somehow or other score the bearing and try to crack it open. But yeah, cool.
Oh, so everybody's got a different trick for that one.
Yeah.
One of the guys I work with, what he likes to do is he'll put a punch on the vise, and he'll put the hub on there, and then he'll just kiss it with the torch and spin it around, and it falls right off.
Torch is a acetylene torch. Yeah, like turn it liquid. It always works.
No. This is like you just kiss it. Kiss it.
I know. And actually,
get it too hot, it never comes off. It's
I have a press to put them back on, but I remember in the good old days before the press, you would take off the whole carrier assembly, heat it up with a Tagger torch, and then put your bearings in the freezer for a couple of hours, and then just carefully hold it right over and then try to drop that bearing, and you get like if you miss and it goes in just even at a slight angle, you got to start all over because it just expands so quickly. But yeah.
And if you heat it up too much, then it'll stay a larger size. It'll anneal the wrong. Yeah. I usually use a big pile driver. I have this huge pile driver that I pound bearings on with.
I bought a nice press, or not a press. I bought it's a pressing kit, and I bought it literally off Amazon for about $70, and it's so cheap, but it's so effective. It comes with different cups, and it's multi-purpose. You put it one way, and you can push the bearings out, and you turn it around the other way, and you can push them in, and it works like a charm.
I have one. It's called the Hub Grappler. It's by OTC. They make it. We could talk about this all night.
Absolutely.
I want to bring this one to your attention. I don't know if you saw this one, Marty, but this one, it kind of peeved me off a little bit. This hour has 22 minutes. You know, our paid for comedy in Canada. Jay Bhattacharya is saying on this one, the Canadian government funds the Canadian CBC propagandists to mock working class people. I thought the mission of journalism was to comfort the afflicted and afflict the uncomfortable. So this one is, I mean,
the only thing about this one that I was with you when I first saw it. I was angry. When you watch it, I don't know. Are you going to show it? If we show it,
I'm going to show it. Yeah,
it made me angry right away. The only thing here, let's watch it, then we'll talk about it.
Okay. Let's get the album now.
Like, it's not even funny.
It's not two things to comedy. I want to throw this in there.
Sure.
There's two things to comedy. One is always punch up. When you punch down, you're not funny.
Right.
You're punching down at people who are going up against the state and lost, right? That's punching down. Are you going to go make fun of the people at Tiananmen Square? Like, what the hell? Seriously. Yeah. And the other thing is, well, it's got, like, you couldn't come up with this in 2 years? 2.5 years later, you have your presentation of making fun of the convoy. Like, come on. Clever.
Yeah, well, I have to correct you, though. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but this is 2 years old. So that was the one thing.
Oh, is it?
That's what caught me off guard. So this morning when I first saw it, I was like, oh, shit, this is weird. And it was
How did I not see that in 2
years? It was
years?
really offensive when I saw it. But it is 2 years old. So it did come out about 6 months after the convoy. It's an absolute poor taste. But what happened is that there was an actual play in Ottawa 6 months after the convoy. Now, the play was kind of positive, and this was making fun of the play and the convoy. But anyways, it's no matter what. Yeah, it is 2 years old, and maybe it was sort of buried 2 years ago and it's coming out. But anyways,
I'm surprised it never got out there. I never saw it.
Yeah, no, I think it got kind of buried 2 years ago, and then it's sort of resurfaced. Now, they might have republished it recently, which is why it made the news this week. But I could find I could find this skit 2 years ago. Like there were instances of it that dated back to 2022 kind of thing. So. But the other thing that's offensive about
it's punching down, and that's what's offensive to me.
Well, it's punching down, but the other thing that's offensive is that it's state media, like it's like the CBC, and I used to like this is the CBC. This hour is 22 minutes is a comedy skit on the CBC, so this is publicly funded. So this is basically. I don't care what people say. It's a crown corporation. That makes them civil servants, and this is civil servants paid by you and I making fun of Canadians who were grossly discriminated against and abused by their government. So yeah, there's nothing. The CBC is their own worst enemy. I mean, that's what it is. They're.
You know what? I've got another recent case of a similar situation. Actually, I got an email from. Is it the JCCF? They sent me an email with an article talking about how they're going after Canada Post.
What?
Okay. Yeah. they're going after Canada Post. I'll pop this up just so it's on the screen here. So Ottawa, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom announces that the lawyers for Campaign Life Coalition have written to Canada Post to remind them of their constitutional obligations to warn them against infringing Campaign Life Coalition's right to free expression. So basically, what ended up happening was there was a campaign to stop a letter that was going out, and this is the letter that went out. And this is in the PDF form. So schools must not keep secrets from parents. And this was a group of individuals that thought this was very important to put this out in, your regular spam mail or whatever that goes to your door. Yeah. And there was a campaign to stop this letter from being transmitted through Canada Post. And Canada Post was obliging it.
So Canada Post was basically censoring then, deciding what should be delivered to people's houses and what shouldn't?
Right. Now, if it was FedEx, that's one thing because it's a private company. They can do what they want. If it's, UPS, they can do what they want. But this is Canada Post. The government runs it. Yeah. Everyone should have equal access to it. And if this person pays or this group of people pay to have this flyer go out, well, hot damn, you're going to deliver it. Because that's your job. And so the JCCF is put a campaign. I don't know if they're suing, but they're putting a campaign together to ensure that the Canada Post understands their obligations as a crown corporation in this situation.
Well, that's a good point. I've always assumed that Canada Post was 100% impartial, but it is run by humans, right? Who's to say that on a lower level, on a more intimate level, that some guy who's coming to my house and he sees that I'm getting Life magazine, and he doesn't like Life magazine, what's to stop him from not putting it in my mailbox? I mean, that's an example. Like, I never used to distrust our institutions, but I'm getting to the point in my life where there's several Canadian institutions that I don't trust anymore. I used to implicitly trust Canada Post. I don't trust them as much as I used to. I don't trust the courts. I don't trust I don't trust the courts. I mean, holy smokes, man. Like, I'm not kidding when I say this to people. Like, do not get in trouble with the law, man. Like, no. do not let them, roll down your window, answer a few questions when you're pulled over by the cops. Do not get out of the car. Whatever you do, don't let them put handcuffs on you and put it in the car and send you to jail, because we might not see you for 2 years. No, that's
kidding.
Yeah, that's disappointing. That so what's the end of the story then? So Canada did it broke, but is Canada Post defending itself, or what's the end of the story? Are they
I think it hasn't gotten to that part.
Okay.
They put out an open letter saying here's a reminder. So we can get into it right here. I have the open letter right here. So this is from the Charter Advocates Canada to Canada Post Corporation. Says, Campaign Life Coalition Flyer Campaign. We act for Campaign Life, CLC. Our client has instructed us to send you this correspondence setting out its position regarding its flyer campaign currently taking place in New Brunswick. The campaign, as you may be aware, the CLC is conducting the campaign using Canada Post neighborhood mail service. The flyers are being distributed through the campaign are attached to this flyer so people can see it. As Canada Post is likely aware, the campaign has garnered media attention. Fredericton councillor Ruth Breen has called for complaints about the flyers being brought to Canada Post's attention. We understand that the matter has even been brought to the attention of the Honourable Jean-Yves Duclos, Minister of Public Service and Procurement. In the face of such pressure being brought to bear on Canada Post in a apparent effort to censor CLC and prevent it from exercising the freedoms guaranteed by the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the Charter, the purpose of this letter is to remind Canada Post of its Charter obligations and to urge Canada Post to continue to deliver the flyers. So this is, it sounds preemptive.
No,
Canada Post, yeah.
it's censorship. I mean, whatever you want to call it, it's censorship, right? I mean, it's somebody trying to stop Canada Post from delivering something that they don't like. I mean, yeah, it won't stop there. I mean, like I still get emails. I don't get a lot of stuff on Canada Post, actually. Maybe I should inquire. Maybe I'm being blocked and I'm not getting stuff from Canada Post. I don't know.
Nothing but flyers from the Liberal MP of this region trying to get reelected. He voted for the.
Actually, let's put this question out for the viewers, because it's been this long since somebody can put it in the comments. What's the Canada Post stamp worth these days? Like, I haven't sent a letter in so long. But
throw that.
If you had to send a letter, what's a stamp worth? I'm guessing it's over $1. Somebody's probably.
Well, we're waiting for that to come in. We've got a couple of other ones here. We got 100 Dead 001 says 2 weeks in a row, no notifications in recommendations. Had to go straight to the channel. Well, I'm glad you know where to go, because YouTube isn't always giving out those notifications. Everybody, make sure you hit that notification bell. I'm guessing you have already, but it's sad if that's not the case. We got Jilly Beans for the $2 super chat. Absolute garbage. Cancel 22 minutes and CBC. Yeah, defund them. Let them be in the public market.
Yep.
With their drivel. I mean, that's my opinion anyway. Linda Hunter back gifting another membership for the channel. Chippy's Outdoors member for 26 months. Holy cow, it's been a minute. Hey everyone, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Clyde is being rationed, about 6-1 viewers to thumbs ups. Oh wow, the rations. Yeah, it's happening. No, I think I took a week off, so this is the thing. Hit that like button.
I think he's probably referring to ratio, right? Ration. Like, is there a ratio you pay attention to in YouTube?
Oh, I think he's talking about the ratio people viewing versus likes on the channel page right now. Yeah, hit that like. It's free. It's free.
I'm looking at the comment. Somebody say that a stamp is worth a gram of silver. Wow, that's a lot of money. I think the most realistic answer, Canada postage is around $2.30. That seems high, but
$6.19 to 200 something. I'm not sure if that's for a stamp.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's the ratio for the likes versus.
Oh.
Yeah, a gram of silver. That's dead dollar. Yeah, we've got a dead dollar. A gram of silver. What's that worth in our dead dollars? What's it, like $39 for?
See, $1.32 showed up twice now. 2 people have said $1.32 for a stamp. So I'm gonna guess that's probably bang on. So $1.32 to send a letter.
To send a letter. That's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Oh well, internet.
Yeah. No kidding.
That's what people said. $1.20 with tax. So tax on $1.20 would be 5 cents plus 4 would be 9 cents. $1.20, $1.29, $1.32. Holy shit! And there's tax on the stamp. Yeah, why not? I mean, there's tax on the carbon tax. Government loves to put tax on tax. Like,
that's where we're at. That's absolutely where we're at. But yeah, taxes on taxes. Absolutely. I was going to get into another one before we got going here. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about Pure Polyev calling out Jagmeet Singh. This is priceless, actually. So this went out on Twitter. I think it was this morning, and it was Pure Polyev saying, "This is encouraging. The NDP House leader says ending the costly coalition to bring down Justin Trudeau is on the table. In response to my demand for a carbon tax election, it looks like we might be headed for a carbon tax election." Singh says Singh is staying quiet, probably hunkered down with his team, deciding between his principles and his pension. I mean, what do you want from a champagne socialist, really, at the end of the day? This is another one. Breaking: NDP says ending the coalition triggering a carbon tax election is on the table. Sellout Singh has become Silent Singh. Sign here to tell Jagmeet to speak up. So this is all because with that rail strike, Jagmeet said, "Oh, if they do back to work legislation, we'll vote against it." and then he was asked, well, what if it becomes a confidence vote? And he says, oh, well, I'll vote against that. We'll end the coalition.
And it's not back to work legislation right now. It's what is it? They
forced the negotiation.
They forced a binding arbitration, which is pretty right. So, interestingly, the other thing that happened, the other thing I found interesting this week is that Jagmeet Singh weighed in on Alberta politics, and he's never done that. Like well, he wouldn't do it in the past. I think the reason he wasn't weighing in on Alberta politics is because I think Rachel Notley was like, okay, whoa, like, stay away. Like, I don't need you here. Times are tough enough for me. But now Nenshi is.
I thought
struggling.
she already didn't.
She's gone. She's gone. Yeah. So Nenshi's the new leader of the New Democrats, and maybe Nenshi reached out to Jagmeet and say, "Hey, a little bit of help." So Jagmeet piled on has been criticizing Danielle Smith, and it's like, stay out of there. That's my job. I'll criticize Danielle Smith. You just stay home, Jagmeet, and help. What's your premier's name? Who's struggling right now?
David Eby. Oh,
yeah, David.
Yeah, go help him. Go help him. Yeah, that's what we want. That's what we need. We need Jagmeet Singh here campaigning for David Eby. I think that would be fantastic. That would get David Eby out faster. Way faster. Got Scott Gallen with a $10 super chat saying we need to crowdfund an equivalent amount of Jagdeep's pension and we can buy him out just to save a year and a half. Just
totally, Scott, you're bang on. I agree with that. Or same thing. Let's keep funding Trudeau's vacations. Like, he wants to go surfing in Tofino. I'll pay for that, man. Like, I'll
keep him out of the legislature. Keep him out of parliament.
Keep him out of the ledge and let him keep surfing, man.
That's actually every libertarian's goal, right? Every libertarian's goal is just like keep the government out of the government buildings, and then they'll never be able to expand. They'll never be able to keep going.
Like, how sad is that when you're a politician like Jagmeet Singh and nobody wants your help? Like, everybody's telling your own party in other provinces are like, dude, like, stay away. While you were gone, did you miss?
Wasn't it Saskatchewan last year where the NDP like disinvited him?
Yeah.
Like, they asked him not to come.
Totally, 100%. Absolutely.
They had their convention.
Yeah. I think even Wob Canoe in Manitoba also said, you know what, just stay away. But and poor Jagmeet, like, while you were gone? I think it was while you were gone where he tried to do the press conference where he was holding the bag of apples and he called it a bag of potatoes. Was that while you were on vacation?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Everything happens when I'm out of town.
Let's stay on that topic just a little bit. What's happening in your province right now is absolutely fascinating. I mean, the BC United folded, and through their actual support behind John Rustad, right? Like, it's not, he didn't just say to his candidates or to the people, like, I suggest you do this. He full blown through. What's his name? Kevin Falcon. He threw his support. Yeah.
And there's still the active opposition in the legislature
today, as it stands.
There's still the opposition.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's unreal. I can't believe that. Yeah. But let's get into some of this stuff. We've got our guests in this evening. I want to introduce them one by one. First and foremost, he knows what it's like to be behind the Iron Curtain. He knows what that side of the world looks like. He knows what a free market economy looks like, and probably we'll let him decide which one he prefers. Welcome to the show, Kirk Lubermoff. Thanks for joining us today.
How are you guys? Hey, Marty.
Good. Great. And we also have right from the thick of it all, and bringing these stories to the world, and one of the most I want to say influential contributors to why we're even talking about immigration right now in Canada, of course, Darshan Maharaja. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Clyde. Hey, Kirk.
Absolutely.
Hi, Marty.
Darshan, how's it going? Is that a fake background, bud, or are you somewhere in the Caribbean? Like, you got a nice palm tree back there. What's going on?
I'm in a tropical paradise called Brampton, Ontario.
Oh, okay.
It's amazing what climate change does, eh?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I wanted to bring up this topic because this is where we're at today. Kirk, I quoted a tweet you put out in one of my videos this week, and I've also quoted you, Darshan, actually giving credit to the conservatives for a video that they put out this morning. I gave that tweet out, but what actually triggered me to do this was your tweet, Kirk, was the tweet where you were saying, yes, it's now I'm glad it's in the forefront and we're all talking about it and things are being done, and we still have work to do, but this is all without the conservatives being behind us in this effort. It's largely independents that have been bringing up this whole story about immigration. It's largely, citizen journalists. People aren't we're not necessarily qualified or went to school for journalism, but we're bringing up these topics and we're bringing it to the forefront. And it's such a hot potato that everybody has jumped on it and wants to talk about it because it's so heavy in the country. Kirk, maybe just lend your 2 cents to that one.
Yeah, it's from the conservative side, it should have been such a slam dunk, but it's for some reason they're very afraid to approach the topic, or really essentially any topics except the minimal misspending by the liberals and carbon tax, which seems to be a little bit outdated as far as I'm concerned. But this has really been 100% out. Let's give them 1% benefit of the doubt. So it's been 99% driven by essentially the citizens, by the public, to really clamp down on this mass immigrations issues. So, and it's this couple intersectional stuff that's coming in. One is there's obviously cultural issues. We can't beat around the bush there. There is the additional criminality that's coming to Canada, including terrorism. And then there is the economic impact that's caused by the mass immigration. So there's a trifecta there that's really impacting all of Canada. And the Liberals have really been backed into a wall by us citizens, really, by making noise and putting facts into the media realm, and it's been largely effective, and I'll applaud all of us that's been sharing and putting out info. It's well done, team.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the Liberals retreated to Halifax this week, and it seems to be pretty much the only thing that came out of their retreat was talk on immigration. But I want to ask Darshan a question. I mean, Darshan, first of all, thank you for that little shout out to Clyde, and I appreciate that. And like I said, you did all the heavy lifting on this. But my question to you is this. So you've definitely been exposing, a problem and some scams and things like that. Have you actually had politicians, whether they're conservative, NDP, or liberals, reach out to you and sort of try to inform themselves and assist, or have you just been putting out the word out there and it got picked up?
Nobody reached out to me, Marty. But I know for a fact that the Conservative Party tracks what I am saying on immigration on Twitter.
Okay.
I know that. So
yeah.
I'm not very worried about them not reaching out to me. I know that. See, when I started hammering the point that the Conservatives are behind the curve on this, in 2 days they put out the video. And I don't want to claim all the credit for that, but I'm sure it had an impact on them. Because when someone like Kirk and Darshan, when they start saying, hey guys, we need to hear from you, these are not the typical liberal loyalists who are always screaming, where is Pierre's policy? Where is Pierre's policy? No, we are, sort of impartial, although a lot of people call me a conservative. But we are impartial, and we are saying, hey, we need to hear from you guys, because now, the public opinion is getting ahead of you. Now,
no, we're all impartial. Well, like you said, we lean a certain way, but I was hoping that perhaps a few MPs had reached out to you. I'm disappointed. I'd hoped that some of them would have reached out.
Yeah, but Marty, this is something that I have held from July last year. And again, I'm not bragging here, but I'm the guy who threw the first grenade in this battlefield. when
Yeah.
in July there was a presser of Pierre Poilievre, and I was attending, and I brought up the issue because he was hammering on the housing crisis, and I said, "Hey, there is a demand side to this."
Yes.
Right. So I said, StatsCan had just released data saying that in 1 year our population had gone up by 1 million. So I said, would reducing this intake be a part of your solution? Now, at that time, he still kept talking about, the need to build more houses. And when I posted that video on YouTube, a lot of people said that, he sidestepped your question. And I said, no, this is kryptonite. The moment he says something about reducing numbers, he's going to be, facing howls and, packs of wolves from all sides. So he has to be very circumspect in how he goes about this. Now, over the period, he has been unfolding that as the events allow him to.
Right.
It's only in the last 2 weeks that I started feeling that he's now behind the curve, because the article in Bloomberg had reached out to me.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Bloomberg reached
that's
out to
amazing
me.
because that's an American,
Yeah.
predominantly American outlet, and
Right.
they're
Although
they're
they
reaching out
have
to
this,
talk about Canadian news, right?
no, they have this office in Ottawa. So they
Oh,
reached
okay.
out to me saying, I had posted because someone messaged me via my website saying that LMIAs were being sold at their place of work. And although this person was not affected because the person is a Canadian, but they said, "Can you do something about this?" Now, I have never interacted with this person before and since, but maybe they are tracking what I am doing on X, and they reached out to me. So I posted about that, and then it caught Bloomberg's attention. So they reached out to me saying, "Can we work together on this?" And then I put out an appeal again on Twitter, um, saying, if anyone wants to step forward with evidence, if they have first-hand experience, whatever. Then we got a lot of response. We got victims, we got immigration consultants who were unhappy with this, we got employers who declined to sell their LMIA, we had people from inside Immigration Canada and ESDC, Employment Services, or whatever the full form is. They reached out to me saying, "Hey, we are willing." And Bloomberg had promised anonymity.
Wow.
So then we put everything together. Bloomberg worked on it. Really, I mean, I saw them work, and whatever we normally say about MSM, these guys did a tremendous job. So that came out on August 14th. And when I posted that thread on my X account, I had tagged them, Pierre and CPC, because I expected them to pick it up right away. They didn't. Then 13 days later, Toronto Star came out with a similar article. It is also very in-depth and very well done. For all my criticism of Toronto Star, it's a great.
I was just going to say, for the Star to pick up a story like that, that definitely shows that there's a shift in what's the word? A shift in attitude, or a shift in, yeah. Wow. I don't read the Star because I don't. I think
for good reasons. No,
Yeah.
I try to read them.
This is
'cause,
actually. Can we just talk about what's actually happening here? The
Yeah, sure.
government, the government is literally encouraging and facilitating immigration fraud into Canada here. This
Yeah.
is
yeah, absolutely.
what's happening here. I don't know if enough people understood this. This is treason by all definition. Like, this is one of the most insane things that's. I don't know if it got enough traction. I don't think it got enough, just because.
Well, I, on a previous show, Darshan talked about it. I mean, what I think we even threw out some numbers, right? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Like, there's a lot of money at stake here.
Big time.
Yeah, it's $22 billion.
22 billion. Wow.
$22 billion. That is what they said that the international students are contributing to the Canadian economy. Like, they are not contributing, we are extracting it out of them. But this is a multifaceted issue, as I elaborated in my first chat with Clyde.
Well, and in fact, didn't the UN publish a story not too long ago, or a report? And what was the comment? That we were facilitating
modern slavery.
almost a slave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Modern slavery, and people like me have been saying it for years. because
Well, this
I
is what
live
was
in
such a
Brampton, I
big
see it all
shock.
around me.
So Darshan, when we first had our chat, like I brought you on to talk about why so many Indians were coming to Canada. I didn't know the whole story. I was curious, more curious than anything. And you painted this picture of not only exploiting, Canadians and bringing in, way too many people for us to facilitate, but also that we're running these scams and we have indentured servitude happening right on our land, right under our noses, and we're all going to Tim Hortons and we're all having our our coffees and we're walking away from it thinking nothing of it, but there's so many people being exploited. It's crazy.
Yeah, true. And see, again, the work permit thing is the key here, and it applies to students and to temporary foreign workers. That work permit has become so valuable in the perception of the people who are willing to pay for it, that they are selling the family assets, selling the family farm, and then moving here, and then they end up being exploited. But even the changes that Minister Miller announced earlier this week, it has left a loophole, which is that if someone is here on a tourist visa, then they cannot apply from inside Canada for a work permit. So there is something called flag polling, which means that
Right.
they exit Canada to enter USA without necessarily having a visa to USA. So when they reach the other side, they are simply denied entry, which is called an administrative refusal, and then they turn right back, and then they can apply for a work permit at the point of entry of Canada. So denying them the opportunity to apply from within Canada is defeated there. It takes like a couple of hours to bypass that new regulation. So
Right.
this
This is an
evening,
old thing, right? Flag polling.
yeah,
I remember from when my wife got her permanent residence in Canada. She was told, "Oh, you don't have to do the flag polling anymore," and we're like, "What are you talking about?" And apparently, back then, if you were on another visa and you got your permanent residence, you'd have to leave the country and then come back in. So people would do the flagpole thing, like you're describing. But then they wrote new legislation that made it so you're getting a permanent resident, you're staying, you're changing your status. You don't have to do the flagpole. But for visitors now, they're making it so that's the way around it. Just do the flagpole thing.
yeah, flagpole thing. So this evening I posted on Twitter saying, hey, you know what? Once Labor Day weekend is over, we are going to start hammering on this, because that loophole has to be closed. Otherwise, the latest announcement is meaningless.
Well, what's the solution? Could you say that like you can leave and then come back, but you have to be gone for X amount of days before you can return?
That should be the solution, actually. And as I thought about it more, the whole thing crystallized in my mind that if a person has a tourist visa to Canada, then they cannot apply for work permit for 6 months after their date of exit from Canada, or the date when the tourist visa expires, whichever happens
I
later.
think they shouldn't be allowed until they go back to the country of origin. They should be only be able to apply from the country of origin.
Yeah, but if they have multiple visas, let's say to somewhere in Europe, and then they use that time to do sightseeing in Europe and then fly back, right from there,
Yeah.
that's okay. But there should be a period of 6 months between their exit from Canada or the expiry date of their visa, whichever happens later.
I mean, there'll always be people trying to exploit a loophole, but you gotta put some measures that at least plug some of the holes, 80% of the holes. I mean, if
and the other thing, you have to make sure that you're not hurting people who are doing things honestly. So say, for example, somebody has a work visa and they've been here on a work visa and they're applying for permanent residence. When they change status, like make sure that the law just doesn't apply to change of status, that you have to be gone for 6 months. Make sure that it's specifically for visitors that change their status
Right.
to a work permit. This way it thwarts that. But then again, if you're on a work visa and then you're granted PR, I mean that's the legitimate way of going about it. So don't punish those people. This is what I'm getting at. Don't punish the people who are doing it the right way.
True.
Yeah. So apart from all the pressure and all the stories, what do you guys think changed for the Liberals this weekend? Like, why? I mean, it's a big reversal, like, and it's potentially costly to them financially. So did this get to the point where people were going to vote against the Liberals based on this? Like, is immigration were people realizing that immigration was affecting their day-to-day lives, and Canadians were genuinely fed up? Is that what changed? What do you think changed?
I think it did. First of all, now it has been driven home to a lot of people that all the other major issues, if you talk about the top 5 concerns of voters, then most of them are originating from excessive immigration. So, and what happened was, in effect, the Liberals admitted that they had messed up the policy, although they are trying to, word it in different ways where they take credit for taking corrective measures, but those corrective measures were necessary because they messed up.
So people finally, so we drove it home. People finally put the 1 and 1 and figured out that inflation, the cost of housing, the cost of rent, the sizes of schools, the waiting lines in hospitals, all those things were
the lack of jobs for
the lack of jobs
in summer.
Right?
So the biggest reasons why people flop parties is economics, right? They just can't pay the bills and they're sick and tired of it. They're in financial pain, and that's when they switch parties essentially in elections. The left side has been trying to make it social issues, right? Because they're really bad on the economic side, so they've been trying to drive up the social issues. The old abortion debates, all that nonsense stuff. That's essentially, in Canada at least, it's already set in stone. So what the Liberals? So let's just take a look at what the Liberals are doing. So one thing that's interesting that Mark Miller said this week is that allowing the mass immigration into Canada has essentially prevented 2 recessions from COVID, which I thought is an interesting thing what he said, but also quite insanely wrong. So this is the one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is they're trying to correct their mistakes leading into the election because it cuts into the Conservative Party campaign and promises, right? And if they can correct the economic side before it, then they'll have another edge going into the election. So for me personally, just as a side note, I'm thinking that the Conservatives are about peaking from a polling point of view. So now they're going to have to fight to stay there. But the Liberals' job now going into the election is to try to beat them to the punch on a bunch of election policies. So, and immigration is one of them.
Yeah. Two things there. To your latter point, yeah, the Conservatives have peaked, and when you watch them in the polls every week, it's they're losing a little bit. They're losing seats here and there depending on candidates that'll get announced. But I want to go back to what you said earlier, though. So you think the Liberals were using? You said what? Liberals were using immigration as a way to get out of the hole that they dug during COVID?
Well, Miller, the immigration minister, the mass immigration minister, they like to dig him in, has said in I think this week, a couple days ago, in an interview that the immigration levels, obviously he doesn't call it mass immigration, but the immigration levels has helped prevent 2 recessions in Canada since COVID. So, which is kind of insane to think about, because we're literally 2.5 years away just from COVID. So there's 2 ways to look at it. One, he admits the Canadian economy is so bad that it would have faced a recession every single year since COVID, which was a recession politically caused, right? And then the other aspect of it is that they knew they had to stimulate the Canadian economy. They had no other ideas. They had no other economic policy except mass bring people consumers, which is essentially the Western economy is consumption. So, and I really hope enough people clued into it. But so that's what it said, which is I think is absolutely insane in itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it then, yeah, like how did other countries like Japan or Korea or Sweden avoid their recessions post COVID? Because only a handful of countries did what we did, which is to let in a whole bunch of immigrants. How did the other? So yeah, that makes no sense. But well, and to be honest, I often wondered. I mean, that is a very short-term solution. I mean, all these people that have come in by default, like, do immigrants come here with a whole lot of money? I don't think so, right? I mean, when
not this type of immigrants, right?
Yeah. So how do they contribute to the short? Yeah, you're bringing in a bunch of consumers, but what's the money that those consumers are using? It's just debt, I think. So
most of their money went to spend trying to buy their way into Canada.
Buying, yeah. So once they're in here and they're going to Costco, they're giving a boost to the economy once they're getting in here by buying things, but they're buying on credit. So interesting. Yeah.
Or they are taking jobs here, which is what led to this summer's problem, because Canadians weren't able to get those jobs.
Yeah.
Young Canadians.
I wrote about it at the beginning of the year because I was put into youth statistics because nobody really looks at youths that much for some reason. But like last year, if you look like from December essentially to January this year, or December to December, like the the youth in this country, which is under 25, has actually lost 8,000 full-time jobs, which is absolutely insane. Like there's literally not a single net gain in full-time jobs in youth. And to remember, the 25 age gap also accounts for new graduates. So new graduates, new talent, people who spent tens of thousands of dollars in their education have no jobs in Canada right now.
I'm so shocked by this because, I mean, I'm not denying the stats that are coming out, but what I'm hearing from people is I can't hire people. Nobody's applying in so many different places, whether it's construction jobs or trades jobs, even entry level in the trades. People are not applying to be apprentices, this kind of thing. People are just waiting, just sitting there waiting. They're putting out ads all over the place and nobody's applying. So where's the discrepancy there?
Do you want me to answer? Go ahead, Dashan.
No, I think one part is they have to think that it is worth applying to this job. If the pay is too low, if it's not going to help them, they might as well not have a job.
Well, it's weird. The trades are paying well. The trades pay better than other entry level positions. I know working in a garage will pay you better than Uber. It'll pay you better than working at Tim Hortons. But yet, at my shop, we're not getting applicants. It's not happening. The people that are applying are from already overseas. And
where is the shop at?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So it might be a geographical thing.
It's a geographical thing, right? I mean, the new immigrants to Canada are not going to small town British Columbia. They're going to Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver.
Not necessarily true, because you go to all the entry level places and they're
sure. I'm generalizing a little bit, but I mean, let's be fair. I think most of them are going there, and when you're going to those cities, what are the jobs that are available to people in those cities? Like the unemployment in Toronto is different than the unemployment in Red Deer, Alberta. Totally different. Because I mean, Red Deer, Alberta has a high unemployment rate, or not a high unemployment rate, a low unemployment rate right now, and there's like 15,000 job vacancies in Red Deer, but nobody's moving to Red Deer.
Right.
And
right.
this is
which is another policy that the government should be addressing, right? I mean, if they were really, really serious about this, then we would vetting immigrants doesn't just mean vetting them for their criminal backgrounds. It means finding immigrants that fill the needs that we have. And so there is a need for a lot of workers in Red Deer and Lloydminster and in small town Saskatchewan and PEI and places like that. So yeah.
Yeah, so there's a couple interesting points here. So most of the current immigration is not calculated, right? We're essentially letting scammers or faulty players in the Canadian economy go out, which mostly it's 80% into India, and scam people out of there for their low-skilled jobs, right? That's essentially what's happening. They dangle a carrot in front of them to say, you pay me X amount of dollars, I'm going to get you into beautiful first world-ish Canada. You're going to get free healthcare. A couple of years later, you'll be able to bring your family here, right? Then you'll be able to support your family back home. And they work with local business owners, which happens to be mostly low-skilled jobs, right? It's the it's your typical fast foods, and obviously the trucking industry is a big one, but which is highly skilled, I would say. But so that's one of the issues. The other issue is, so actually talk about trades. When you bring economic migrants into trades, that's actually Canada's most successful immigration policy, where people actually stay in those jobs for the longest and then pursue to stay in Canada. So our actually trade economic migration system is actually Canada's most successful one. So the issue is, because we're not doing economic migrants per traditional way, we're just letting people scam into Canada. We're just letting that all getting concentrated into certain areas around Canada, which creates that 15 people living in a house, people living in trying to there's 1,000 people lined up for any minimum wage job just to get more hours. So we're not spreading the economic aspect of the migration across Canada. And this is something I talked about before. Like, I personally don't think Canada and the provinces by themselves and the territories should put a single new cent in economic development dollars into established economic zones. It should be all into smaller areas. We just got to spread our population in Canada. And Marty is correct when you said our immigration is concentrated in 5 cities. It literally is. We're shuffling about 150,000 to 350,000, depends on the given year, between those 5 cities, and that's always been the case for the last, I would say, 5 years or so.
Yeah, I just finished traveling through Alberta this summer, and all the small towns are dying. They're just dying, and they all have vibrant economies that logging and oil and gas and things like that. But nobody's being encouraged to go to those places. So Darshan, what are you working on these days then? Is your job done now and mission accomplished, or what are you working on next?
No. There is a lot to do still. Just as I said, this loophole is something that we have to start hammering from next week. And the whole my biggest problem is that in our commentariat, people don't analyze words, which is supposed to be their job. Their job consists of that, right? For example, when Prime Minister Trudeau said that now that inflation is low, we can reduce the intake of foreign workers. What does that mean? It means when inflation is high and Canadian workers are demanding higher wages to compensate for that, they'll bring in more workers to remove the bargaining power of Canadian workers.
That's pretty bad.
Right?
Self-admission.
Right? Nobody passes the words like that in our commentariat. That is my biggest gripe with the commentariat, that you guys don't parse the words. If Pierre were to say something like this, then I'm sure they would have pounced on it. It's not that they are incapable of doing it, it's that they don't want to do it when it is Trudeau or his party, right? So there is still a lot of work to do on on this work permit, international student, the whole gamut. There is still a lot to do. And another thing that I expect is that refugee claims will spike.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Now, according to UNHCR, between 2013 to 2023, in 10 years, refugee claims in Canada went up by 1,290%. They almost became 13 times,
Wow.
right? 14 times actually, right? And this year we are on track to be 50% higher than that. And with all these restrictions coming on international students and work permits and everything else, it's probably going to go even higher. So what we need to do is to tighten up the refugee processing system. There is tons of malpractice going on there.
Well, yeah,
I've seen
here's
cases.
some of the malpractice, and we went over this before, Darshan, when I had you on with Kushal Mehra, and this was one of the things that you guys shared with me. This is a tweet where it's showing an official in Punjab who's talking about signing letters for people to have their refugee status honored by an official, and they're paying this guy to do this. Now it's in Punjabi.
ਮਾਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਬੜੀ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮਾਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕੋਲ ਇੱਕ ਲੈਟਰ ਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੰਦੇ ਪੱਕੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਕੀ ਏਜ ਚਾਹੀਏ ਆ? ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਲੈਟਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਐਕਸਟ੍ਰੈਡੀਸ਼ਨ ਲੈਣੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ
ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਮੁਸੀਬਤ ਚ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚਿੱਠੀ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ?
ਹਾਂ, ਪਾਰਟੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਪੱਕੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਵਿਚਾਰੇ।
ਕਿੰਨੇ ਕੁ ਬੰਦੇ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਪੱਕੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ?
ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿੰਨੇ, ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੈਂ ਗਿਣੇ, ਪਰ ਇਹ 50,000 ਤਾਂ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਹੋਣੇ।
ਉਹਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਫੀਸ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ?
ਫੀਸ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਚਲਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ।
ਅੱਛਾ,
ਹਾਂ,
ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਫੰਡ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ
ਹਾਂ
ਉਹ ਲੈਣੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ?
ਹਾਂ, ਬਸ।
ਕਿੰਨੀ ਫੀਸ ਲੈਣੇ ਹੋ? ਕੋਈ ਪੱਕੀ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਬੰਦੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਤ ਮੁਤਾਬਕ ਆ?
ਨਹੀਂ, ਪੱਕੀ ਹੈ। ਕਿਉਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹ 30 ਲੱਖ ਰੁਪਈਆ ਖਰਚਦੇ ਹੈ ਕਿ 35,000 ਦੇ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨੂੰ।
35,000 ਰੁਪਇਆ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ। 35,000 ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੈਟਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਅਗਰ ਉੱਥੇ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੋਈ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਖਤਰਾ ਭਾਰਤ 'ਚ, ਤਾਂ
ਹਾਂ, ਜਿਹੜੇ 30 ਲੱਖ 40 ਲੱਖ ਦੇ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੈ।
ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਜੇ ਐਂ ਕਹਿ ਦੇਣ ਵੀ ਦੇਖੋ ਜੀ ਮਾਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤਾਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਲੈਟਰਾਂ ਦੇ, ਫਿਰ
ਨਾ, ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਚਲਾਊਂਗਾ? ਉਹ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਚਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਪਾਰਟੀ? ਮੇਰੇ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਵੀ ਤਾਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਲਈ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹੀ ਹੈ।
ਪਾਰਟੀ ਲਈ ਫੰਡ ਆਓ?
ਹਾਂ,
ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਉਹ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਖਾਤੇ ਜਾਂਦਾ?
ਨਾ, ਮੇਰੇ ਫੰਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ। ਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲੰਗਰ ਹੁਣ ਛਕਿਆ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਮੇਰਾ ਲੰਗਰ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਥੋੜੀ ਹੈ।
So break this down for us.
ਜਿੰਨੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ 30 40।
Clyde, is he talking specifically about Canada?
He's talking specifically about Canada, about signing letters to people so that they can claim refugee status as an official, and they'll pay him or pay through the party, for a fee.
Yeah, you see, the craziest reason that I have seen as an application for asylum claim is that we have a property dispute in our family and my brother wants to kill me. Now, that is a law and order issue for Indian government to tackle, or the government of respective state to tackle. Canada has nothing to do with that. If the state itself is victimizing a person, or if there is a civil war situation where there is no state left, then you have some basis for claiming refugee status. But a personal dispute,
one that I was learning about was that some men will buddy up with the Khalistani movement, and then they can use that as a grounds for refugee status, because now they can't go back to India.
Well, this politician that you played a video has ties to the Khalistani movement, and it's Darshan, maybe it'll be worthwhile explaining the difference between the I guess province of Punjab and the rest of India.
well, Punjab, the historical territory of Punjab was divided in 1947 between Pakistan and India. Pakistan got 2/3 of that territory and India got 1/3 of it. Then there was a further division based on ethnicity, where there are some areas where people are not Punjabi, but it was part of historical Punjab by conquest. So those parts were separated out and made a different state. Now in Punjab, there is Sikh majority, and then there are Hindus, and this Khalistan movement is basically about making Indian part of Punjab as an independent state for Sikhs. Now the founder of Sikh religion was born in a place which is now in Pakistan, but they don't want it. The only Sikh empire to have existed between roughly the year 1790 and 1850. The political capital was a city called Lahore, which is in Pakistan. They don't want it. So, I have never understood their basis for the area that they are claiming for Khalistan. Then in the 80s, there was all this, lot of violence there, and that movement was at its peak. Then the movement died out. People moved on. In India, there is no appetite for Khalistan.
No,
Among
it's,
Sikhs.
it's almost non-existent. It's a Canadian first issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in the UK, and now it is spreading
Yeah.
in Australia and US also. But it's basically an issue for the diaspora. In India, I mean, Sikhs are working all over India. So they don't want any part of this, because they are well established wherever they are.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I mean the question I was trying to understand is, how do you claim to be a refugee? Like if you're from India, I guess you're answering it because I mean I can understand where somebody would come knocking on the door of Canada, say, "Hey, I'm from Ukraine, and we're getting bombed, so I'm a refugee." But like in that clip, are people going to officials in India and saying, "Please sign on my piece of paper saying I'm persecuted," and then coming to Canada afterwards and saying they're persecuted? Like, what's the grounds for claiming refugee status in Canada from India or from other countries? Like, how many do we not determine in advance which citizens can apply as refugees?
So,
Is that not?
there's two steps. One, anyone can claim refugee status. Anyone can claim asylum, right? And then you essentially wait in Canada, and then you wait for it to get approved. So
Okay, so it's not like Canada pre-designates certain countries as being able to, or certain citizens or certain groups as qualifying as refugees. We don't pre-qualify.
Well, it depends on the conflict. Like with Ukraine, there's seldom examples like the 5,000 Gazan visas that they're issuing. Essentially, is two recent examples. But yeah, so essentially you land in Canada, and the waiting processing time is essentially 2 years for certain places, and then you can get free government benefits.
Wow. Coincidentally, 2 weeks ago, Clyde had a guest on this show, a lawyer from Quebec, who's applying for asylum in France. She's trying to escape persecution in Canada, and when she showed up in France, the lawyers there or the officials looked at her with a weird look. They're like, "Well, we've had asylum seekers from the U.S., but we've never had one from Canada before." But she's a lawyer who's been
she's been raked through the coals. Absolutely.
She's vocal, and she's been challenging the Canadian courts and the Canadian government, and to the point where the government is threatening her. We're digressing, but okay. I guess I thought there was only certain countries that could apply to be, because when you said that, what makes you, so you're saying that when you think that in one loophole is closed, and you think applications for refugee status or asylum will just go up, and basically that's people who will just say, well, I'm already here and I've exhausted this window, so therefore I'll just apply
just
for
try
the next
that
thing.
other one.
Yeah, just try that other one.
This is a big question I have. So what was it when we originally made these agreements with other nations to say, refugees will be accepted, and then we made policy around that. Was it not originally the idea that if there was refugee was if there's a conflict in a nation and innocent civilians need to flee that area, they would flee to a neighboring nation until the conflict is over, and then they would return home. That was like the original purpose of it, so that they weren't in the conflict area immediately, but then would be allowed to go back. Right now, the way I view it is okay. Refugees, they're not going to neighboring nations. They're going all the way across the globe to wealthy countries, and they're using that as a form. They're not going home. It's a way of permanent immigration. It's just another means of getting to permanent immigration. Was it not originally just to save people from conflict and then have them return back to their place? Is that not the original idea behind refugees?
Yeah, that's the original idea. But Canada's problem is that we have only one border, that is with the United States, and in the current times we are not expected to receive any refugee claimants or people fleeing the United States in large numbers, which deprives the politicians of the opportunity to virtue signal. So we will accept anybody from anywhere, right? And this is not new. I mean, I don't want to pin this on Justin Trudeau, because I have met
No.
Afghans who came here in the 90s. Like, the guy went from Afghanistan to Germany, an engineer, educated in the USSR, and then went to Germany. From there, he caught a flight to Toronto, and on the way, in the flight, he destroyed his passport and landed here and claimed refugee status. So this has been going on for the better part of 30 years.
Wow.
But the thing is, we need to have a very clear-cut understanding of what Canada's role is going to be. Because if the understanding is that the person fleeing war or persecution in their country needs to go to the neighboring country, then we have no role to play. But then in the modern committee of nations, that's not going to fly. So we have to have a very clearly enunciated role for Canada to play in this, as to where and when we will accept refugees. Right now, it is as and when the opportunity arises, we get to bring in so many people. Like, we brought 35,000 from Syria back in 2015. And then Ukraine blew up in recent history, and then we are getting refugees from there. I believe the number was 50,000.
No,
So
it's a lot more, and their visas, their stay in Canada just were extended till the end of the year.
Right. So there needs to be a very, free, fair, frank, public discussion on this policy, because right now it's, ad hoc.
Yeah. The most outrageous cases are not even from India; it's from Africa, because people just say, "Hey, I'm homosexual, or I'm a bi, and I can't go back because they'll kill me now." And Canada says, "Okay, I guess you can stay." And it's done to, people that have wife and kids here, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm bisexual." All of a sudden, I can't go back. Like the case of the guy this week that was quite famous, but that's essentially a big majority of the cases from Nigeria into Canada, or for people's appeals to stay in Canada to avoid extradition, to avoid getting kicked out of Canada. Their claims is they're all of a sudden, one of the letters on the LGBT plus dot, whatever it all that is. And it's and Canada says, "Oh, okay, I guess you can stay now."
Unless it has to do with Palestine, because they're supporting Palestine, of course.
Yeah.
So they'd have no trouble going over there, I'd imagine. But then there's the other problem with immigration, and that's people just illegally crossing over the border or overstaying visas. People who are just completely undocumented. So they're not going through any sort of process. They're not trying to go through any process. And there was an estimate that it's about 1 million of those now in Canada.
Yeah.
And now the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, is saying we're a sanctuary city. We're going to allow everybody to come here. Not only come here, but we're going to protect you from any other agencies learning about your status, and we're going to give you taxpayer benefits. And here's Here's a video of that coming from. This is the deputy mayor of Toronto. Oh, you get to the beginning of that.
Undocumented residents, like all Torontonians, deserve safe access to housing, decent work, education, and health services. And with Toronto's Access TO policy, undocumented residents can access municipal services in Toronto without fear of discrimination or their status being shared with other orders of government, putting them at risk for detention and deportation. And that needs to be shared at every single level of government.
Yeah, well,
So,
I mean,
what do you do with that?
Yeah, what I think a lot of Canadians don't
Undocumented
understand is just how easy it is to come into this country. Like, you know, you buy a plane ticket from almost any country in the world. Very seldom do you even need a visa to come here. You land at the airport, you show your passport. They might give you a couple of conditions. They'll say, yeah, you got to leave in 2 weeks, or you got to leave in 3 weeks, or you're not entitled to services. But then they stamp your passport and you go in. And then nobody's going to call X and say, hey, you've been here for 3 weeks, it's time to leave, right? I mean, people come in and never leave. Same thing happens to the US.
What number are they even gonna call?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, I even find it funny. I mean, you know, I have to fill out the same paperwork when I go to Mexico, and I was, you know, I put in a fake address. I mean, I put in the address where I'm going to stay for 1 day in Mexico, and then, except I'm not going there to stay forever. But yeah, like there are millions of that's what she was referring to. What does she call them?
Undocumented Canadians.
Undocumented, right? That's what the.
But calling them Canadians. I mean,
well, here in Calgary, Mayor Gondek wanted to give him the right to vote. Like it's crazy. Yeah.
But Marty, my experience was different, because when I came to Canada, I was in Dubai, and there they verified whether I had the necessary visa papers. The visa on my passport, and there is a form called IMM 1000.
Yeah.
Before I
you did it by the book, you know, and Clyde and I have talked about this. Like Clyde's going to the U.S. Clyde's an American citizen, so he wants to go to the U.S. He could, and it's harder when you follow the law. If Clyde didn't follow
so
the
much
law,
harder.
He could go to the U.S. tomorrow, bring his wife over there, and then live there for 20 years. And finally, maybe 20 years from now, somebody would go, "Hey, wait a minute, your wife's not an American citizen." Whatever. Like it's most
and it
people
would be
forget,
immaterial.
and
actually.
we're a country of suckers. Like we are known as that, right? People just go, "Oh yeah, go to Canada." Those guys don't care. Like it's,
but you know, there's one question that I've been asking since January 2017.
Okay.
When Justin Trudeau issued his welcome tweet to the whole world that Canada welcomes you. When I see, because after that, a competition started among cities to declare themselves a sanctuary city. And it essentially means that they are saying they will not implement federal law. And they will in fact obstruct the implementation of federal law. Is that an offense, whether criminal or civil? Can they be? Are
you aiding and abetting a criminal at that point? Is that not complicit?
It's an interesting question.
Nobody has answered. See,
No, nobody's answered because they don't want to answer. But you know, along the same lines, I mean, the premier of Saskatchewan last year said, "I'm not going to comply with the carbon tax," and he turned around and he ordered his crown corporations not to collect the carbon tax. He ordered his corporations to break the law, and he's getting sued by the federal government for doing that. So, but if he had said Saskatchewan is a sanctuary province and we will not allow anybody here to be deported, then
or pay taxes.
Yeah, you're right. No, there's double standards for
and it's simply because nobody's challenging that in court.
Totally. Yeah.
So what about when the federal government does it? Because here's a picture of Roxanne Road.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this.
Is that what it looks like now?
This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
I think it's built up. So there's the border going across there. You can see that. and there's a road from the New York side, and then there's a road in the Quebec side, and they've built a house there, or a building, to process people that come in, but it's the RCMP that are processing people. And I brought this up several times. And I think that the immediate solution would, because here's what the federal government calls it. They call it an irregular border crossing. It's an irregular border crossing. It's not regular. So therefore they have the RCMP there to, when people cross illegally, because it is illegal, when they cross illegally, they'll be apprehended, they'll be given a promise to appear in court, and then they're released into Canada. Now, what I've advocated for is that they turn it into a regular border crossing. Put a CBSA agent at that door, and put a gate in. And then when the people come, you say, "Hi, would you like to cross into Canada? Oh, you don't have the proper documentation. Goodbye, you can't come." Like it would be that simple.
I am at a loss why they haven't done that. I have no idea why they don't, like, they position. There's there are 2 or 3 full-time RCMP officers there that arrest people coming across the border. And it would be, like you said, it would be just as easy to replace those 3 RCMP officers with 3 Canada Customs and Border Service agents. But they don't. Yeah. By the way, hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying this, but I'll say this. I've crossed the border illegally dozens of times in my life. I do it all the time when I go hiking.
Coming for you, Marty.
Yeah. No, when I go hiking, it happens all the time. Like, when you hike in Waterton Lakes, I cross over and then I cross back while I'm hiking. Happens all the time. But
I mean, you can catch a boat to the American side there and do hikes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Roxham Crossing is there's a sign. There's a big orange sign that says it's illegal to cross the border, but they don't or put barbed wire fence. They don't do anything. In
my opinion, it's there intentionally.
It is
because there's a very simple answer. Because illegal migrants are not going to the regular border crossings because they'll be turned away. So turn it into a regular border crossing.
Well, those illegal, but let's just step back. So first of all, turning it to an official border crossing is a whole headache for Canada, because it's not an official border crossing, right? And second of all, we're not supposed to be even accepting refugees from the U.S. because the U.S. is just like Canada. It's a first world country, blah, blah, blah. There's a term for it. I'm blanking on it now. But we should not even be accepting it, refugees from it. The only reason we're accepting for it is because Justin Trudeau allows it.
Right, because like Clyde said, if you're escaping war in one country and you land into the U.S., you've already achieved, you're a refugee, you're already safe. To go one country further, now you're not a refugee.
Now you're a tourist.
Or something else. Exactly.
There's actually a term for it, but I'm really blanking.
It's a safe country passage or whatever.
It's safe third country agreement.
Safe third country
agreement. But what they are doing is country shopping. There is a term for that, and it comes from Europe, because people were entering Europe on the shores of Italy and then going all the way to Sweden or Finland.
Because Sweden pays more per month.
Yeah, which one has a better welfare package, and then they would settle in that country.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So before we finish this all off, where do you think we need to focus our energy moving forward? We'll start with you, Darshan.
This has many components, and I'm focusing on hitting one component at a time. It's going to take a while to get through the whole list, but that's the only way we can achieve progress or force the government to change their policy, the way we have so far seen has happened with public pressure on international students, on the postgraduate work permits, then now on the work permits themselves. There is also the element of lack of enforcement on LMIA fraud, which will be my next project. But right now I am on to this loophole of flag polling. So one by one, we'll keep hitting on that.
Absolutely. Kirk, what do you think?
Well, I think we really got to talk about the economic aspect of it. And we kind of talked about last time, me and you and Marty were chatting about the low productivity economy. And this is, so essentially, if everything works out good, we starting to remove some people Pierre gets into power and actually does the right things, he's going to essentially inherit a failing economy, right? A dropping economy. And if he's going to do the right actions, without dilly-dallying on it, like Daniel Smith is doing, frankly, in Alberta, screwing around for a couple of years without getting much done from the economic side and public sector side. He needs to crush the economy as soon as possible. That's his job in the first month, essentially.
Was that your tweet today? You're the one who made that tweet where you said we would pivot. You're predicting we'd pivot to communism hard in like 5-6 years from now, or was that somebody else who said that?
No, I don't think it was me. I think I came across it. I think someone.
Well, I think you said that Pierre's going to inherit a bad economy. He's going to have a hard time turning the economy around, which will then make Canadians turn to communism. I thought that was you who said that, or maybe there's somebody else.
I've been saying this myself.
Yeah, it was
no,
and I agree with that. And then coincidentally, I said something about that with regarding Danielle today. Like we can't drag our feet on this. We cannot drag our feet on this, man. We have to act very fast and very dramatically and turn things around.
Yeah. So there's two things, right? There's the economic cycle, and then there is the political cycle, right? And the economic cycle essentially is essentially the side effect of the political cycle, right? So whatever policies they're doing could have, and this in this case does have a substantial economic side to it. So the issue here is we need to get back to building the country for productivity, for wealth, and based on fundamental reasons, right? So so I don't think Trudeau will mass deport people. I mean, we're barely even deporting the people we are deporting right now, right? So, there's tens of thousands of people on the deportation list, and we're not even scratching the surface of it, like naturally, just based on government operations. So Pierre has to logically come up with a solution and with the intent to start getting rid of this low productivity economy that's taken advantage of those people. And listen, we want the smart people from India. We want the smartest people from Africa. We want the smartest people from whatever, from the moon, wherever they're going to come. That's the people we should be going for, right? We should not be trying to base our economy on Ponzi schemes, real estate drive, which is over 20% of our GDP now in the last couple of years, and low base consumerism, which is now even becoming a negative number per person, which is why we're seeing GDP drop also per capita. With today's GDP numbers, we're actually at the 2014 and 2017 levels. So we essentially have a lost decade. So if you've been in Canada for over 10 years, the average person has not seen a net gain in financial well-being, which is insane to think about it. So we need to focus on that aspect, and this is kind of, what I'm going to try to focus on a little more from the debt policy side, because we need to get our economy based on fundamentals rather than, come on everyone, let's stimulate the economy with consumers, and whoever comes.
Can I share a quick positive story about immigration? And it has to do with an Indian immigrant. So when I worked for TransCanada, I managed the Keystone Pipeline, which is a very large diameter pipeline. Like it flows 500,000 barrels per day. So
Biden was a big fan of it, eh?
What's that?
Joe Biden was a big fan.
Yeah, so 500,000 barrels per day, and there's a discipline in there called hydraulics. You need to model the flow of fluids, and I put in a demand at headquarters that I needed an engineer, and we found an engineer, and the engineer was in India. The guy's name was Rishav Chatterjee, and we brought him into Canada on a temporary permit or whatever, and then he worked for me, and he was brilliant, one of the smartest kids I've ever worked with. And then one day he came into my office and he was in tears because he hadn't advocated for himself with the immigration office, and his application was taken from the top of the pile and dropped to the bottom, and it got rejected. It ran out of time, and then he suddenly found himself with a letter saying, he was going to get kicked out of the country. And so I told Rishav, I'm like, Rishav, relax, don't worry about this. I walked upstairs to the vice president's office in TransCanada, and I said, where's our corporate lawyer? And they're like, that's the guy there. I'm like, this guy here, Rishav, he needs to stay in the country. No matter what, he's staying in the country. So I had like one of the most expensive, best lawyers ever take care of Rishav's case. And we got him to stay in there. But yeah, which was frustrating, right? Because yes, when you get the good people who follow the rules, they're the ones who get in trouble, and that's what I felt like saying to him. It's like, next time, just cheat. Don't just.
Well, but this is the problem, right? We have those brilliant and good people stuck into migration process between all the scams and everything else that's happening, which is so insane in itself, right? Like, it's absolutely
totally. Which is my closing thought on this. I am pro-immigration. We all are. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm a long-term immigrant. I've been here a long time, but this country is founded on that, on people willing to come here and work hard. And right now the system is broken, and that's all we're advocating for, is fix the system. We're not saying no to immigration, but no to the cheaters, no to the people that are skipping the line. Slow it down a little bit and let the rest of the infrastructure catch up. Because
more backdooring immigration. If your intention is to move to Canada and live in Canada, make that apparent right from the get-go, and don't pretend like you're here on for some other reason. No, don't say you're a temporary student. Don't say you're a temporary worker. Say you're working towards getting your permanent residence. That's what your goal is. I'm tired of it. Like, just be straightforward. Be honest. I'm gonna get to some of these super chats here. We got Jilly Beans for $5 saying, Clyde, go find Ryan. I'm thinking Northern Perspective short with jug meat, bag of potatoes. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
we were actually, Marty and I were
earlier.
joking about that just before we went live. Jilly Beans also for $2 says, under JT, there's no saving the Liberal Party. I'm gonna agree with that. They have to get rid of him if they're gonna even try to be a party again. Trish Prue for $6.99 says, if we thought it was expensive now to retire, wait till immigrants are ready to retire too. Yeah, well, in my opinion, they're part of the immigration equation is trying to pass the buck on this Ponzi scheme of social insurance, right? The pensions are coming due, and we need a large population to pay those pensions. So they want to bring up that we don't have enough population growth. So do it with people that want to come to the country. I don't think it'll work, but I think it's a politician's band-aid for that whole scenario. Kitty Nukes with a $5 super chat. How would one know the person hired from India with work/study permit is being scammed? Great topic. Need more light shed on this abhorrent business. Agreed. And all of these amazing gentlemen have been working on exactly that. So appreciate you guys so much. Chili Beans with a $5 super chat saying, ag tech are in high demand in Manitoba, but there isn't anyone applying for the dealers here either. Incidentally, expanding on that story, my brother, he works in Northern Ontario as a truck driver. He works for a company. He's been there forever. And he says there are no people applying other than when they get Indians. And he's like, yeah, they come and they're fantastic people. And when they become qualified for the job, they're happy to work. But there's no Canadians applying for the truck driving jobs in Northern Ontario. And that's his anecdote anyway from that.
So just for Jelly Bean there, it's so ag tech or the ag industry, because it's two different things. Like as in agriculture technology, which is, we talk about the innovation side, or is it the,
well, I think ag techs is in her context, she probably means people who work on farms, but also work repairing the farm equipment, the machinery, selling. I mean, it's a giant business in Saskatchewan, right, and Manitoba.
The whole aspect of it's a little funny because Canada should be doing and exporting a tons of business to India. Like, we ruined the relationship with India, which is so dumb. But we should be doing.
Yeah.
We barely do any business with India as a country. We actually make more money from their scams coming from the Indian immigration scams coming into Canada than we do with from country to country relations, which
From
is
honest
just
trade.
which is just insane to think about. You know, we're talking about essentially. I look at India as, like, I used to have two teams of developers and coders there before for a couple companies. So fantastic people in Jaipur mostly, but and it's crazy. Like, I look at India as where China was 20, 30 years ago, and the amount of wealth that's going to be generated there through industrialization, just the socioeconomic migration is going to be insane within the country, and the fact that Canada is not participating in that is absolutely lunatic.
You know, I think some of the biggest. So you're right. So perhaps Canada doesn't do as much trade with India as it should, but within Canada, the two or three provinces that are doing a lot of trade with India are Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta. So perhaps it's not a coincidence that Trudeau is sabotaging the relationship with India, because by sabotaging the relationship with India, he's sabotaging trade between. He's sabotaging Alberta. And Trudeau's an idiot. I mean, God, did you see this week? Now we're even pissing off Mexico. So I think Mexico is sort of freezing temporary diplomatic relations with
Why
Canada.
was it Mexico? I missed that.
We went to a conference. There's a conference down in South America right now, and our ambassador said something to piss off the Mexicans. Like, we criticize their court system. I'm like, we're not in a position to criticize other countries' courts.
So talking about Mexico, which is actually a huge topic, and I released that date on it, and I kind of predicted that this will happen. So Stephen Harper, actually, Canada never used to have visa requirements on Mexicans. Stephen Harper put a visa on them because as a share of our refugee claims and asylum claims, Mexico was by far the biggest. So people coming for agriculture jobs, and then they will never leave.
Right.
But the problem is the cartels run a lot of things. So people will come here, not necessarily your typical strawberry potato pickers, but they're more like finger choppers, cocaine grower, green thumbers, right? So they will come here, and then they will start the human smuggling, the drug smuggling into the U.S.
Yeah.
And so Trudeau, for no particular reason, and I released data on it, and I'm like, this is so stupid, it's gonna bite us. And like 2 years later, Trudeau reintroduced the visa on it, because the amount of smuggling that was happening from Canada into the U.S. was so insane. The U.S. put pressure on Trudeau to shut their visa again, and this is absolutely insane. So when you showed the border picture of Roxham Road, there's actually a forest close by, and that's where most of the Mexican smuggling has been happening. And 50% of the smuggling was coming through the forest. So they didn't actually use the roads. They were like, me and Marty would hike into the U.S. and just would never come out. And so
that's funny, because I remember around COVID time, Trudeau said he wouldn't close the road, because if he did, the people would just go around the fence in the forested areas that are very, very dangerous, and they could get harmed. So that's why it was his excuse for not closing the road.
But it's so that was actually our biggest issue. And when they caught El Chapo and some of those people, they were actually planning to run drugs up the rivers here into Saskatchewan and down. They're actually real estate shopping, because it was so profitable to do in Canada. And which is now, when you hear TD Bank got slapped with money laundering for fentanyl, that's mostly Chinese, but it's also the Chinese are working with the Mexicans. So the Chinese cartels in Canada are the essential middlemen between the CCP and the cartels in Mexico.
Clyde, our year-end review is going to be so awesome. Think of the
Oh, it's gonna
year
be
that
so much
24
fun.
has been, man. It's been a crazy year. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get on
Yeah.
with some more of these. Trudeau is a commie, is the latest member of the channel. Thank you so much for joining in. Null with a $5 super chat. Landscape, tree work, and snow work is always hiring. No one wants to work it. But apparently, even the migrants. Janice Pollard with a $5 super chat. I think that would be calculated into the GDP is the amount of money immigrants are sending back home to their countries. Well, that's called repatriating funds, right? So
Well,
that's a net loss.
It's essentially getting calculated by expenditure.
Oh, okay. But that is a net loss, is it not? When people make money in the country and send it back home.
It's just not a net gain, right? But yeah, it's. I mean, if a Canadian had a job and didn't send money anywhere outside of Canada, then definitely there's a net loss between the person that would.
Fair enough. Trudeau is a commie, gifting more memberships to the channel. Thank you so much. Diane Sylvain, who's a member for 6 months. Thanks for the live stream. Thank you all for speaking up about corruption that I see in all our institutions. We all need to speak up. Absolutely. Also, gifting 5 memberships to the channel. Thank you. Really appreciate you guys being generous today. And then also with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Diane Sylvain. I can say without a reasonable doubt that our judicial system has been weaponized towards certain certain types of Canadians. I say that based on 23 years of being a Crown prosecutor, now retired, no rule of law. Well, that's definitely coming from a point of view from someone who would know. Well, we've seen it recently. I mean, we see what's happening in Coots is just insane. We gotta do a show specifically talking about that situation. What's happened with Tamara Litch and Chris Barber? They're still in court for mischief 2.5 years ago. Like it's
Supreme
ridiculous.
Court not wanting to hear Brian Peckford and Max Bernier's challenge today. That was announced. That's because it's
really
moot. Oh yeah.
On something
another
that's
moot.
literally part of our the fundamentals of this country. That's been put there by Trudeau Senior.
Yeah, I mean it would be a test of our Charter of Rights and Freedom.
Yeah,
the
freedom of mobility.
And the charter's been
passport.
Yeah, the charter needs to be tested, and this is how it's tested. But the court won't even hear a case. That's this.
And you can open your passport and it will say in it the charter, and it's the court literally took a dump on it, which is insane.
I got a preview of Alberta's new charter. Alberta's going to have a new charter in a few months, and I got a preview of it. It's impressive.
Is it good?
Yeah. Are you coming back to Alberta, or are you staying in BC? Where are you right now?
No, I'm back in Calgary.
Okay, so you'll be at the AGM in November or whatever. You're back. Okay.
I'll try.
All right.
I want to get back on that moot thing, though. So I don't understand how this is allowed in our court system. That, the government does something against its people, and then by the time you get to court, as long as they lift it, then they can declare that it's moot. Can you say I robbed a liquor store, but I'm no longer doing it? So it's moot?
There's a very significant. The word moot has a legal definition, and so moot means that it's temporarily not worth debating because the Emergencies Act was lifted, and that's it. Like it literally means not worth debating. So they're saying it's not worth debating at this point.
Yeah, it's not.
They're not saying they'll never debating. They're just simply saying that it's not worth debating at this point.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it's not like
it's a miscarriage.
I mean, if
opinion.
like I gave a bad example today. When I said, "Oh, sorry, you stopped beating your spouse, so therefore it's moot." No, that's not. You did commit a crime, so it's not moot. But the moot simply means the court is deciding at this point that it's not in the best interest of itself or the population to debate it.
I had to look up the word. I'm having a hard
Yeah.
time wrapping my head around that because the government did infringe on people's charter rights. They gave a crappy excuse for it, and they're no
7
longer
of
giving
the
that
9
excuse, but
Supreme Court
They
7
still
out of the
do-
9 Supreme Court justices were appointed by Trudeau. That's all you need to know.
Unbelievable. Anyway, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining
Hey,
me
before we
tonight.
go, one last thing, just quickly, just because I'm an Albertan, and he wasn't an Albertan, but it was sad news for Alberta today. I don't know if you guys heard, but Johnny Goudreau died yesterday. So poor Johnny Goudreau was hit by a car. He was visiting family. His sister got married today, for Christ's sake. He was going to be one of the groomsmen. So Johnny Goudreau, number 13 for the Flames for 9 years.
And his brother died too.
And his brother were killed accidentally yesterday while riding their bikes. So sympathies to his family.
Yeah, sympathies for sure. Yeah, sorry to hear that. Absolutely. I've got one last super chat before we end this off. Steve's Hyde for $5 says, I know it's a little while away, but how do you feel about doing an American elections live stream? I'm
absolutely
gonna
absolutely, yes.
Absolutely going to do that. I'm going to be a part of a live stream for the British Columbia election live stream. I might put it on the channel, but I'm going to be doing it with the Newman podcast, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that, because we're going to bring that one out. Anyway, thank you guys, gentlemen, for joining me tonight. Stick around on the line before we end our conversation here, but I'm going to end the live stream. Thank you guys for all coming out, and we'll see you all Tuesday, because Monday is a holiday. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
See you on Tuesday.
Thank you.